stage whereby you can prove the facts. Whatever it talks about, those are facts that can be proven. So we have a proof of the events that take place in a factual passage. Now, the two passages usually test the learner's understanding. The comprehension means that you read to understand. You read the passages and understand. Some of us learners usually read the stories in a hurry. Sometimes we don't even complete reading the passage. Sometimes we start answering questions before we complete reading that passage. It is up to the learner to complete reading the story until you understand what the story is asking you to do. For example, you read a story and you are able to tell whether it is talking about home, whether it is talking about politics, whether it is talking about school, whether it is on technology or other topics which are usually taught in the primary school syllabus. Now, after reading the story, you are supposed to ask yourself a few questions. 1. What is the story talking about? What is the story talking about? That is the topic. The topic of the story. That is the first thing. Now, the second thing is where did it take place? So that is the venue. The venue or the place that the story took place. Number 3, who are the characters in the story? Or, okay, sometimes we may not have human characters. You may also have other things talked about in the story. So, for example, if you are talking about the COVID-19 disease, as I have talked about it earlier, you can ask yourself, what is the story talking about? So here we have what we call characters. So you ask yourself about the characters who have been talked about in the story. This is before you start answering your questions. If you can't answer these questions, what is the topic of the story? Where did it take place? Who or what are the characters? And when did the story, when did the event take place? So this is the time. So this one will help you in knowing the tense which has been used in this story. It can be simple present tense of general truth. For example, when the story is talking about, I still get my example of the COVID-19 disease. If it's talking about the disease, that is simple present tense of general truth, the truth about the disease. If maybe the story is talking about, let's assume the story is talking about the solar system. The solar system, we talk about maybe the sun. This is where you even come across the sun and the 8 planets. So you find that these are things that have been happening in the past. They happen now and will continue taking place. So that is simple present tense of general truth. It can be an event which took place in the past, like elections. We don't have elections now, but at a time we had elections. So we can have a factual story talking about elections. So if you can't answer these questions after completing your story, then as a learner you should know that you have not understood the story. So you go back and read it again. That is the first step, reading the story to understand. if you can't answer, if you don't know the topic after reading, if you can't tell which topic was being tested there or which topic you are reading about, you have not understood the story. And this one applies to both the narrative and the factual passage. Now, if you can't tell where the story was taking place, that is the venue or the place, then you should know that you have not understood the story, hence you should read it again. If you can't answer the question who is taking place in the story or what is happening, who are the characters, that means you have not understood, hence you should read the story again. Now, if you can't answer the time, it can be the time of the day, the time of the year, or the time in history when this story or the events of the story took place, then you have not understood the passage. So we have said, don't rush, read the story and understand it. After that, then you are ready to answer the questions from the passages. The questions which are asked on the passages are usually based on the story. They are based on the story, and therefore, if you are a keen reader, if you have read the story and understood, there is no reason as to why you should not sweep the 47.5 marks out of 60 marks, which are awarded in an English language paper in KCPE. So, I would like us to look at the type of questions which are asked in a prose passage or a comprehension passage. So the type of questions is what we are looking at. So the questions asked, now sometimes you may be asked according to the first paragraph. These are knowledge questions. You are supposed to remember you can be asked from the first paragraph. You are asked a question based on the first paragraph. So this one tells you that you have to go back to the first paragraph and not any other paragraph. You can also be asked from the first sentence or the third sentence in the fourth paragraph. So you should answer your question based on only that paragraph, and maybe if it is a certain number of sentence, you go to that very specific sentence. Now, if you can't remember as you have read, if you cannot remember what the question is asking you, you have to go back to that paragraph where the question is based and read it again until you understand. Now, so you have to, if you can't recall, remember that is what we have said. If you can't recall what you are being asked, you go back and read that particular story or that specific paragraph or that specific sentence. Now, you should read that paragraph that you have been asked. So, this reminds us that as we read our stories, it is very important that we number the paragraphs. When you read paragraph 1, you write 1. When you read paragraph 2, you write number 2. This one will help you to answer your questions if asked about a certain paragraph. So you don't have to go counting again and you have already read. So I'm saying that when you complete reading one paragraph, at the end of if this is where the paragraph starts, so the passage continues. If this is the second paragraph or the first paragraph, you write 1. If you have another paragraph like 1 day, then you can write 2 at the end there. This one will help you to answer questions based on certain paragraphs. Now, after reading that, you make a proper judgment so that you are able to answer the questions without so much struggle. And remember, the answers are usually very close together. Now, you have also to bear in mind that the question which is asked may not be from the answer. Okay, the questions are asked and the answers may not be from that particular sentence where the question is. This is what I mean. Let me write I'm writing a very short passage. My mother woke up very early today. She prepared us breakfast. And prepared us breakfast. I took time. I took time to wake up. So she called me a second time. By the time. Preparing left for school. I have a very short paragraph there, so I read it aloud. My mother woke up very early today. She prepared us breakfast and woke us up. I took time to wake up, so she called me a second time. By the time I finished preparing, my siblings had already left for school. Now, I'm going to ask a question from one of the sentences. So my question will be, I'm writing the question here. The question is, at what time did the writer from that short paragraph of a passage, there is a question: at what time did the writer wake up? Now, from the passage that we have on the chalkboard, on the whiteboard, my mother woke up very early today. She prepared us breakfast and woke us up. I took time to wake up, so she called me a second time. By the time I finished preparing, now you don't have to go up to there because our question is based on this sentence. At what time did the writer wake up? Now, you will not get your answer from this sentence because this is the sentence where the question is based on. You will either get the answer from a sentence before this one or after this one. Now, this does not apply in all cases, but in this case, let's find out where the answer is. Now, when you are answering questions without multiple choices, because this is what you should be doing at home, you should, first of all, answer your questions in complete sentences. Now, you find that there are no choices for this question. So, you have to read again, as I have said, so that you understand. So, you read again from here. My mother woke up very early today. So, you find that she woke up early, but you are not given the specific time. If I may write choices here, choice A may be very early, choice B, late, choice C, you can even be told we are not told. And choice D, we can add the choices. And the last, we can also have another choice. So, the question asks, at what time did the writer wake up? Choice A says very early. Choice B says late. Choice C says we are not told. Choice Dog says after his siblings had woken up. And choice E says, of course, we don't have this many choices. We only have 4 choices. We only looking at how to choose the best choice or the best alternative. Now, choice E says, or alternative E says, before preparing breakfast. Alternative F says, after preparing breakfast. Now, there are some alternatives that are obviously wrong. For example, you find that choice alternative A, which says that the writer woke up very early. That one is wrong because the mother woke up before the writer. So obviously it is the mother who woke up very early, not the writer. So we delete alternative A. Then we move to B because you are not very sure, as you are told. She prepared us breakfast and woke us up. I took time to wake up, so she called me a second time. So because we have not read the other choices and we have not found it wrong, we put a star We'll visit it later. Then choice alternative cut says we are not told. Now, some learners may select this alternative because obviously according to them, they are not told. It is not the specific time which is being asked here, but we have words that tell us about the time that he woke up, like very early, and the preparation of breakfast here will also help us, and the going of school by the siblings will also help us to answer this question correctly. Now, so we are not told should not be an answer. That's why we have to remove it. After his siblings had woken up. So I took time to wake up, so she called me a second time. Now this one is a very confusing answer because we are not told whether all the siblings woke up before the writer. So we are not going to select this answer because from the paragraph that we have, we don't know at what time that the writer woke up. We don't know whether the other siblings also woke up before him, or one of them maybe woke up after him. But we also have to ask yourself another question. We are told, I took time to wake up, so she called me a second time. By the time I finished preparing, there's a comma there, my siblings had already left. So what does it mean? That for the others to have left before him, it means that they woke up earlier than him. So we put another star there. Now we move on to choice E, before preparing breakfast. Now that one, we get it from the first sentence, or from the second sentence. She prepared us breakfast and woke us up. So after preparing breakfast is when the mother woke the writer and the siblings up. So it is after, not before. So that one is wrong. So we delete it. Now, choice F says after preparing breakfast. This one is also confusing. So we have 3 confusing answers. Choice boy, choice dog, and alternative F. So it is up to the learner to find out the best alternative from the 3 answers. So now we are not told how late. The lateness can even be at noon. So it was still in the morning. So we are not. So this answer is vague. So we delete that answer because lateness can even be at noon, and obviously at noon is not the time that they were being waken up to go to school. So we are now left with 2 answers. We are left with alternative dog and alternative F. Now, after his siblings had woken up and after preparing breakfast, we go back to our question, and that's why our learners, we always advise you to read the question very many times. We go back to our question and ask yourself, at what time did the writer wake up? Underline the word time because it is key. We are told after preparing breakfast. So, who was preparing breakfast? We are not told. Maybe this answer could have been after the mother had prepared breakfast. So here, it can be the writer who was preparing breakfast. So we are not told who was preparing breakfast. That's why we don't select alternative F. So we go back. We are now left with one alternative, which is alternative dog. So after his siblings had woken up. So this one is the most probably answer because we have, as we look at this one with a star, we had been left with it, but we are not told who was preparing breakfast. This sentence can still mean that the writer is the one who was preparing breakfast, which is contrary to what we have read from the passage. So, as you read your passage and as you start answering your questions, you should be very keen. You can get all the answers correct in a passage, and you can get all the answers wrong depending on your judgment. That's why you have to make a proper judgment when you are answering your questions, and you make sure that you have understood the questions well and the passage well. If you find that you have not understood, go back to the passage, read keenly, and remember that you are also being timed. You are timed when you are doing the exam, and even at home there you should time yourself. You should time yourself doing an English language paper from number 1 to number 50, so that you are not caught up. You are not caught up by time when you are doing your exams. Now, I have a very short passage that I can write so that we look at it. We look at the questions, because some questions are not usually straightforward. You don't get them from the passage, but they test your ability to apply, maybe relate your question to another subject, or your past knowledge, your prior knowledge of other subjects. So I would like to write a very short passage here, and we answer only one question from that passage. So you read as I write. It is about a river. So I'm going to read as I write from its source. From its source in the mountains, between Sierra Leone and Guinea, to its delta, from its source in the mountains between Sierra Leone and Guinea to its delta in eastern Nigeria, the mighty will have the mighty Niger will have traveled some 4,000 kilometers. This 9-month-long journey through many countries. And some of the most varied sceneries. Now there we go. from its source in the mountains between Sierra Leone and Guinea to its delta in eastern Nigeria, the mighty Niger will have traveled some 4,000 kilometers. This 9-month-long journey through many countries and some of the most varied scenery in the world. Now, I want to write some, maybe 1 or 2 questions from that short paragraph of a passage. Because I would like us to look at an application questions, a question where the learner has to relate what he has read to his or her prior knowledge of other subjects. Question 1 may ask, where is there the mouth of the Niger? Now, the Niger is what has been talked about here. From this short paragraph, the topic is physical features. Physical features is learnt in social studies, is a topic in social studies. And so, what is the mouth of the Niger? You find that in this passage, you don't have anything like the word mouth. So, you must have known the meaning of the word mouth of a river so that you are able to answer this question correctly. So, the choices may be between the mountains and Guinea or Sierra Leone, in eastern Nigeria, between Sierra Leone and Guinea, and alternative D says now I may add another alternative like E, and I say in the Indian Ocean. Now the question asks, where is the mouth of the Niger? And what we have here, the word that we have here is not a mouth of the Niger. We have the source. From its source in the mountains between Sierra Leone and Guinea to its delta in eastern Nigeria. So, I said sometimes we get the answer in a sentence which is before or after the sentence that you have read. But this one is an application question, so you have to apply the knowledge that you have in your map, in your social studies about map reading, and your vocabulary item knowledge to know that a mouth of a river is where it enters maybe another water body like an ocean, like a lake. So here, where is the mouth of the Niger? Between the mountains and Sierra Leone. Since we are not told that the mouth is between the mountains. It is not even between the mountains, but it's the source of the Niger, which is in the mountains. So this one is very confusing also, because we are not told that it is between the mountains and Sierra Leone. We are told that the source of the Niger is in the mountains. So choice A is wrong. Choice B, in eastern Nigeria. We go back to our passage and find out what is being talked about concerning eastern Nigeria. So from its source in the mountains between Sierra Leone and Guinea to its delta in eastern Nigeria. So what is the meaning of this and this? What is the delta? We are told that the delta of a river is where it enters another water body or where it ends. So you are likely to have learned that the delta of some rivers can also be their mouths. So we put a star on choice boy and we move on. We move on to choice alternative cat. So between Sierra Leone and Guinea. Now we are not told that the mouth is between Sierra Leone and Guinea. We are told that the delta, which is also the mouth, is in eastern Nigeria. So we also delete alternative cat and you move to alternative dog, or D, which says it is in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the learners are supposed to have known or learned that in eastern Nigeria is also where we have the Atlantic Ocean. Now we have put a star on choice boy and we put another star on choice cat. Then we move on. Now in the Indian Ocean, now a learner who has not mastered the map of Africa well will not know whether the Indian Ocean or even the Niger is. He will not know where the Niger or the Indian Ocean is. So he's likely to choose choice E if he doesn't know about the Atlantic Ocean. And so, but although this choice is a wrong choice, now you are left with two choices in the Atlantic Ocean and in the eastern Nigeria. Now, from the passage, we have that from its source, between Sierra Leone and Guinea to its delta in eastern Nigeria, the mighty Niger will have traveled some 4,000 kilometers. So it means that this river is in eastern Nigeria. This is where it ends. But we are not asked where it ends. We have been asked the mouth, where the river enters another water body. And there we are left with this choice alternative dog to be the correct answer, because in eastern Nigeria it is not specific whether that is the place where it enters the Atlantic Ocean. So we may also have another question like and this is usually the last question in an English passage paper, like it can be number 38 or number 50, which asks the last question in a passage, or the second last. It may be number 37 or 38, number 49 or number 50, may be asking the best title for the passage. Now, it is after you have read the passage and 3/4 of what has been talked about in that passage is what forms the title for the passage. For example, if we are asked the title or the best title for this passage about what we have read about River Niger, it is the alternatives that may be very confusing, and so the best title The best title for this passage, I'm just writing the choices because we are running against time. So the first choice can be the Niger. Alternative B can be the source of the Niger. And alternative C can be the length of the Niger and alternative D can be the sceneries the Niger. Now, I have said that 3/4 of what the story has been talked about is what gives us the best title for the passage. All these ones can be titles, but the best title for the passage we'll get it from 3/4 of what has been talked about in this short passage. Now, if we look at A, the Niger, we have looked at the source of the Niger, the length of the Niger, and its mouth, and the scenery maybe surrounding the river Niger. So we start with A, the Niger, we put a star there. Now we go to the source of the Niger. Now we have not been talking about the source of the Niger throughout. It has only been mentioned as we are talking about the Niger. So that one is not the correct answer. Then we move to the length of the Niger. The length of the Niger has only been mentioned and it is part of the Niger River. Then, so it is not what is being talked about in that passage. The scenery surrounding the Niger. Now, if it is about the scenery, then you could have been told about how the sceneries look alike, how the scenery look like. The scenery surrounding the Niger maybe as it meanders from its source to its mouth or its delta. And so alternative dog is not the correct alternative. So you're supposed to read. You read carefully, understand, and ask yourself, what has the story been talking about? What has been talked about in the story? 3/4 of what has been talked about in the story is what will give us the best title. You can look at the last paragraph of a story. If you don't get the best title from there, then you read again through so that you may find the correct alternative or the best title for the passage. And remember, always 3/4 of what has been talked about in a story is what gives us the title for the passage. Now, I'm going to reach there for today, and I hope that you are revising. You are revising on passages. You are revising on passages. So, and I've said you read as many passages as possible. You answer the questions without looking at the choices given. And remember, you should answer the questions in complete sentences. For example, when you look at this question, the answers are not in complete sentences, but when you are revising on your own, you should write the answers in complete sentences. So if I may go to this question, where is the mouth of the Niger? Don't say between Sierra Leone and Guinea or in the Atlantic Ocean. Say that the mouth of the Niger is in the Atlantic Ocean. This one will help you to get the correct answer as you are looking at the choices, or when you are selecting the best alternative in the passage. So for today, it's goodbye until we meet next time. Revise and revise smart. We wish you well as you revise at home.